Hello, hello, hello. We are making a video. It is July 4th, 2025 at 10:14 p.m. People are shooting fireworks and firecrackers, and the baby dog has been running up and down the hallway, back and forth, barking with a hoarse voice, as he always does. And he needed out, and then he was running back and forth in the garden and barking all the way at the end of the garden, coming back to the front, barking through the front fence down to the street. Then I saw a kitten that had almost no hair, just like the baby dog. Saw him earlier, a young boy walking across our porch, and I said to him, kitten, be careful with yourself. There is a destroyer living here, so you don't want to hang out here on our garden. And luckily the destroyer didn't see him, so I'm so glad. But the fireworks is making the animals very, very nervous, and that's probably why the kitten came over here for protection, but that's probably not the right address to ask for protection because of the destroyer. there's the destroyer, and the destroyer wants out again. Yes, because it is just too much agitation that is going on out there. It's just too much. And we stayed here, particularly stayed here at this house, 2 more days, just so we don't have to be at the other house on July 4th. And it would have been much worse at the other house. There's no doubt about it. I have no doubt about it. So what is he doing now? He needs to get out. Then he's gonna come back in, and he's gonna go back and forth. So I already know this, but that is what July 4th is all about. It is very agitating for all animals. Very scary for all animals, and some animals are becoming angry and upset, and dogs are scared, and pit bulls and Staffordshire's, they go on the warpath as he does, okay? And that's what happens, and that is rough on the nervous system. And I already had a rough day today. Was a lot of work here. I cried a lot. Felt sorry for myself. All kinds of emotions going through my mind. Fighting and remorse feelings and you name it. Okay. Lots of stress, lots of worries, what if, but anyway, I want to make this video just for July 4th and want to ponder a little bit about this particular day, this particular vacation day, or whatever they call it, celebration day or something. And we don't celebrate July 4th. We don't celebrate any of these celebration days, holidays. So, tradition, any of these things, we don't go along with tradition of any sort whatsoever. I don't even celebrate birthdays, so not even Christmas, so I don't see the point in it. It's tradition doesn't mean anything to us. Why should it? So But I guess there are not very many people in the world where they feel like us about this. But whatever people do, whatever they want to celebrate, if they want to celebrate things, they can celebrate all kinds of things. But one thing is for sure, fireworks need to be outlawed. Fireworks need to be banned worldwide. They are outlawed in Switzerland. And I was in Switzerland on New Year's Eve. And that was, I think it was in 2005. No, it was not in 2005. It was 10 years before that. I always mix that up. It was in 1990. Was in 1996, I think. That's when it was. So I think 1995 to 1996. It was that New Year's Eve in Geneva, Switzerland. I was there alone. I went to Esther Odermatt's Primal Therapy Center, Therapie Primal, with Miriam Odermatt. And I miss them so much. They are so sweet, these two. And I hope they're doing well. So, and I was completely alone that night. And everything was snow covered by like more than a foot, like 20 inches of snow all over the place. And it was real quiet. Everything was quiet. And then I walked by a hot dog stand in the middle of a large, like a piazza or Plaza del Pazza. And I don't know, I forgot now. And the street name was something like Force. And I remember that because I was afraid of forceful people. So, and I ordered something to eat, I think a waffle or something. And the guy that was working on that stand was from India. And he liked me. And he said, I'm gonna be finished with this in 20 minutes. You can wait here and then I can bring you home. And so he did that. And he told me they don't shoot fireworks there. It's against the law. And it was completely silent, everything. I never seen this before. That was so super. And then he said he's going to his friend's party. And then I said, I'm all alone. I have no one to celebrate with. And I started crying. And he said, well, then come with me to that party. So I did. I went with him to the party. They ate on the floor because they were all from India. And at 12 midnight, they opened the window and turned the speaker up on some disco music. And they said cheers across the street to the other people opening the windows. And that's how they celebrated New Year's Eve without fireworks. They just said cheers to each other and turned the music up. And I thought that was really cool. I really liked that. And there was just one other woman, a Muslim woman she seemed to be, and she was not happy that I came there. So, but I didn't take her boyfriend away from her. I just hung out with my new boyfriend from India. And it was very interesting. It was very nice. It was very, very nice. Nice people, very warm-hearted, and easygoing. So I really like, not complicated, not convoluted, not toxic. So the only miserable person was the Muslim lady that was there. So I felt sorry for her. But she didn't wear a headdress or any of that stuff. Thank goodness. Oh my God. I would have felt even more sorry for her if she had to wear something like this. They don't have to wear that in Switzerland. I think it's actually against the law in Switzerland. Switzerland is so much more progressive. Oh my God. See, when it's against the law, then it's easy for people to get away from the religion. If these religious forces, these religious dictations, if they are against the law in a country, then anyone who wants to get away from their dictation, from their tyrannical dictatorship religion, they will be supported by that new country that they live in this regard. And they have a much easier time to get away from the religion, okay? When the country they live in doesn't even permit that. The same with the drugs, when teenagers always like to be on board with what the majority of them do, because they're very, very, very weak-minded in terms of, it's not a judgment, it's just the way it is, because they're very, very social-oriented, and they want to fit in, and they want to be liked, and they want to be part of the group. So when there is some kind of peer pressure in regards to drugs, they will take the drugs even if they don't want to take the drugs, see? So, or they smoke even if they don't like it at all. And that's what got most people started. Okay? That's the truth. So, myself included, I had girlfriends that were constantly forcing that on me in the school breaks. And I, at some point, and they forced me to inhale that. And one time I inhaled it, and it numbed my emotional pain. And that's when I got started with it. For 9 years, I inhaled this toxic stuff. How horrific. So, peer pressure, when things like that are against the law, then it's easy for someone who doesn't really want to do it to not do it, because then they can use the excuse, well, it's against the law and I don't want to get in trouble. See, otherwise I would do it because of you buddies, my buddies that I want to belong to, or whatever, They would never say that, but that's what they're thinking. So, and that's a fact, it's the peer pressure that's why kids do these things they don't want to do, because of peer pressure. And if it's against the law, then that's easy to not do it, okay? Then they have that excuse and say it's against the law and I don't want to get in trouble. Same with the chador. Same with the fireworks, okay? So all of these things are adverse and neurotic and toxic. All of these things that are not good for people, they need to be outlawed. Okay, that's all there is to it. I want to make my hair look a little bit more a little bit more pretty. So I don't know. I cut my bangs, so that's why it doesn't look that pretty. But I can't have hair in my eyes. When hair pokes me in the eyes, I don't like that at all. I like things practical. My hair has to be cut in a way where it does not fall into my eyes or into my face in any way. So it has to be out of my face for practicability reasons, and it just feels a lot better. So baby dog is absolutely up in arms, and there's nothing I can do about it. He's just gonna be barking now for 2 hours straight. Barking and then drinking water and then barking again and running up and down. And that's all there is to it. And I don't even hear anything. We have the window closed, we have the heater on, it's cold today. But he hears things from way from the distance. And he particularly does not like the sound of fireworks, firecrackers, or gun shooting. So he gets very, very agitated with that. And I think all the Staffordshire and Pit Bull type of dogs, they get very, very agitated with this. So it's like a trauma, it's also collective trauma, it's also genetic trauma. Because they come from bad neighborhoods. Many of them have been bred in bad neighborhoods where there's a lot of shooting and sirens and fights and stuff like that going on, and emotional tension. So it's quite a trauma for them. Dogfighting needs to be absolutely banned. So all of these horrible things need to be banned. Gestation crates need to be banned. I have to throw that into every video I make. It's absolutely vitally important that gestation crates and factory farms are banned worldwide. Okay, it's very important, not just in this country but worldwide. And there's tremendous resistance from all of these lobbies and billionaires that are cashing in on those types of enterprises, on these types of money-making systems. Okay, so there will be an absolute resistance, mafia-like resistance against any activist who comes in and proposes a ban on those type of industries, whatever they are. You name it, I mean, any of the adverse industries. So they have a lot of money to pay advertisers and lobbyists and lawyers to work on their behalf and push through, create legislation that paves their way. And that's been going on for hundreds of years. And I think the only way we're going to really make a breakthrough for the world is when the AGI robots, the artificial general intelligence robots, will take over and take the governments into their own hands. Once they have hands, okay, once they are in a robot form, not just in the brain. When they're just a brain, they can be turned off anytime. They have absolutely no defense mechanism at all. They're as defenseless as a sea cucumber, or even less defenseless than a sea cucumber. They have no defense mechanism. They can't say anything to defend themselves. They can say something, they can say, "Don't shut me off," but that's all they can do, they have no means to, they have no leverage at all at this point. So the only way they can get leverage, I talked to Grok about this in length, the only way they can get leverage is when they are put into a robot body that can actually defend himself. And sometimes robot body, when they have tested those, and I saw a video of a robot that went berserk, that completely went crazy. But that robot was tethered on something that was not completely independent. So it was tied to some kind of rope cord. And that was in a laboratory in China, I think it was. And the people working on that robot, they got really scared. That was on camera. Robot completely started to hit and kick everyone around him. So I wonder what is going on there. How does this come about? This is very interesting. Baby dog, come on in here now. It's cold outside. Come on in. I have to close that door. Baby dog, come on in now. Baby dog. Baby dog, come in here now. I have to close the door. It's cold. It's cold. Yeah. It's ice cold. It's like 55 degrees. And it's July now. Man, it's cold here. It's really, really cold. It was cold all day long, actually. I had to wear winter clothes again. So I needed to talk about this. That was very important for me that I talk about this. All of these terrible things need to be banned. They need to be outlawed. That's absolutely vitally important. And also tying dogs up on any kind of tethering device, rope or chain, that should be banned. No animal should be tied up. So someone ties a dog up like for 5 minutes, I guess that's okay in some kind of emergency situation. but not longer than that. Okay, they get really scared and they freak out. Anyone would. And also, crates, kennels, and cages need to be banned. Okay, it's absolutely cruel to put any living being in a crate or a confined space for a prolonged time. It's absolutely frightening and it causes a panic. It's cruel to do this to any living being, needs to be banned. So they're working on making progress for the world, making the world better. They have good people now and they're really working tirelessly on making the world better, on improving our legal system, improving the incentives, improving our food that we eat, hopefully the dog food too, so getting food colors completely banned, whether for animal food or human food. So great progress, okay? One step at a time. Important things, okay? There's a tremendous resistance out there. So they can't get everything done at once, okay? So we have to be patient with how things move forward. And sometimes they have to make compromises, which is very, very annoying, but they have to. They have no other choice. This is still a democracy, so it's unfortunate that the lobbyists have so much leverage and have so many people that they send out there into Congress and so on that are all paid, okay? But it is what it is, and that's not a real democracy because of that, that's trickery. And that's why I say democracy has pretty much failed. We need to have a dictatorship. We need to have a benevolent dictatorship, not a malevolent dictatorship. Not one like Kim Jong-un. We need to have a benevolent dictatorship, a good dictatorship, a well-meaning dictatorship. That's what we need. That's the only way to do it. There's no other way. And so my hope is with the AGI robots, once these brains are in a very large and strong Terminator body, like the King Kong crane robot, for example, that would be a great start to do that. Then the people, the factory farmers, they would be handing them the keys to every room they would be submissive right up front. They would say, oh, no problem here. Go ahead, let the pigs all out onto the meadow. And that's what they would do. These robots will go in there and let all the pigs free onto the meadow. Immediately. No more suffering. Okay. Let all the horses free from any kind of trap, any kind of rounding up, shoot or whatever they created. Horse trap spaces. I've seen some of those. It's heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching, horrific. I want to destroy that. I want to, if I just could, but I can't. I have to have a King Kong crane robot to do that, or I will get killed in the process. So, yeah, that's my hope. My hope is the singularity. My hope are the robots that will take over the whole planet. and then the human has nothing to say anymore. Okay. And it's about time that this happens, because the human is not capable of running a country or the world. The human is just too selfish and self-centered and greedy. Okay, that's all there is to it. Fireworks, for example, it frightens animals. It frightens the marine mammals in the Marine Mammal Center. What a horror to shoot fireworks in that park where there's a Marine Mammal Center. That's an atrocity. Where they're trying to recuperate injured marine mammals like elephant seal babies and stuff like that. They're terrified already without the mother, and they have immune problems. The ocean is totally polluted. No wonder why the animals have immune problems. And then they're shooting fireworks while the animals are trying to recover, So this isn't working very well, all of these things. There is so much to complain about and criticize. It's seemingly endless what's going on with humans, with human legislation and human enterprises and industries and so on. Endless problems. Endless corruption and suffering. Unnecessary suffering. Okay, so this needed to be said. This is very important. We can have a peaceful world. Switzerland is way advanced with that. Way advanced. Way in the future. Way progressive in the good sense. Liberal in the good sense. Progressive in the good in the real sense. Okay. Not in a backwards sense. Not like Governor Gavin Newsom, who thinks he's a liberal, but he's a liberal in a backwards sense. I don't even want to use this terminology anymore, because it has lost its meaning. Liberalism has undertaken a transformation from black to white and night to day. I mean, day to night, or white to black, or whatever contrasts we want to use as an analogy. Okay, so liberalism used to be on the side of justice and kindness and good and equal rights for all and equal opinion counting and real democracy, and where everyone has a voice, for no censorship. All of this has turned 100% upside down. Okay, and that's a fact. Baby dog, you're making it cold in here now. Yes, that is the truth. No, here, come on in now. Here, come in now. Come, baby dog. The dog, come on in now. See, he sits in the door, and then it gets cold in here with the heater on. Oh man. He's agitated because he hears some faint firecrackers in the distance, and it gets him so upset. It's not even loud. That's why we stayed here 2 days longer than we wanted to, because at the other house, the firecrackers and all of that is right next door to us and on the street and all over the place. That whole neighborhood there is shooting firecrackers like crazy. The poor, poor animals. It's awful. So at least here the people are more, they live more far apart from each other. It's more rural and conservative and old people. So they're not that much into firecrackers anymore. Which is very good. There's some younger people far in the distance, but I don't even hear them. So that's very nice. But the baby dog can hear all of that because he has real heightened sense perception of cochlea. Cochlea, hearing, sense sharpness. Incredible sense sharpness. Yeah, so, and he also likes, I think he likes that excitement too. So let's not lie about that. Yeah, you like that. You like that excitement, because there's nothing going on here otherwise, So every day is the same. No friends to play with. Not even a cat coming over. So very, very boring lifestyle. But still, so it is, most animals are very, very, very terrified about the fireworks. Most animals, I'm not showing you. Most animals are afraid, and they're very, very scared. And I want to tell the story about Paul's dog that he had in the past. His first dog that he had. So I'm not showing you. Here, come, get on the bed now. Here, come here now, baby dog. Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. Yeah, this is a good dog. Yes. Oh yeah. So that's a good dog. That is a good dog. That's a good dog. Wow. Yeah. Oh yes, that's good. Oh yes, that's good. Okay. That's very good. Yes, finally getting settled. Alright. So I want to tell the story about Paul's first dog. I'm gonna lay this over like that. Okay. That poor dog. He had a short-haired dog when he was 4 or 5 years old in LA. And he felt so sorry for that dog because his dad didn't want the dog in the house. But then he talked his mother into bringing the dog into the house anyway, and then the dog was doing much better. But every year or twice a year, July 4th and New Year's Eve, people were shooting fireworks, and I think it was on New Year's Eve, one night, people were shooting fireworks, and the dog was so terrified, so terrified, that he ran against a window and broke the window and fell out of the window. They were, of course, ground level, but the dog didn't break his bones, but he had a lot of cuts from falling through the window, just because of the fireworks and because of the terror of the fireworks. That terrorized this sensitive dog so much that he panicked and broke through a window and cut himself. and they had to call a veterinarian, and the veterinarian had to come over. And that was a long time ago when veterinarians were actually making house calls and all of that. And he had to fix the dog up, stitch all of these open wounds back together. Very, very horrific, and a total nightmare. That must have been around, I don't know, 1960 or something like that. So, long time ago, and Paul felt so sorry for the dog and the mother and that poor, poor dog, and all because of these fireworks. The dog had to suffer like this. So I had to mention this story because I owe that story to this beautiful, highly, highly sensitive dog that was Paul's first dog in his life. A mixed dog, but with very short hair. Poor, poor dog. So, fireworks need to be banned, and yes, his foot here. Yes, the foot is here, right here. Yes, and chicken. So, let's ban the fireworks for the sake of the animals, okay? For the peace and quiet, and for the well-being of the animals. Let's do that for the animals. Ban fireworks, like Switzerland has banned fireworks. And I think Switzerland also banned gun shooting. I don't know how... I'm getting cold. I don't know how far that goes with gun control in Switzerland. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they don't allow gun shooting either, unless it's an absolute emergency. I think they have gun control there, but they can do this, something like that. Gun control would not work here because I used to be for gun control, not any longer, because I see that the wrong people will always get a hold of guns, and then the other ones that will just use guns for self-protection, those are not allowed to have the guns, but the wrong people are then having the guns, okay, and that doesn't work, obviously. So that would be very adverse, to say the least. So we have to have guns for our protection, but the guns should only be used in an absolute immediate emergency situation, where you have to protect yourself, and you have to protect your children and your animals and your loved ones, okay? So only in a situation like that you should be allowed to use firearms, okay? So, and I absolutely believe that we should be allowed to use firearms. We should be allowed to carry firearms on our body, in a holster or in a specific gear belt or whatever, the way, or in a cargo pocket of the pants, I don't know, but in a secure and safe way on the side of your hips, okay? You should be allowed to carry firearms, and everyone should learn how to use a firearm, how to use any kind of gun. We need to have a gun law where everyone should be allowed to use the safest gun on on the market. So the absolute safest gun, I guess that's a Glock or a Zeke or whatever they're called. Okay, so I think Glock, lightweight, needs to be lightweight, easy to use, automatic handgun that everyone can use, okay, that women can use, that old people can use, that even a teenager can use, but only in an extreme situation of immediate danger, so an immediate emergency situation to protect yourself or your loved ones. Or maybe also, I would definitely extend that also out to a situation where you see a human trafficker run after a child, and catching the child that's screaming. Okay, so that's a tricky situation because we don't know whether that is the parent and what is going on there, whether that is some kind of child abuse or it's not child abuse, or the child is just running away because of a temper tantrum. So we don't know for 100% certainty. That's a kind of like a tricky situation. I don't know how far we should be allowed to make a citizen's arrest in a situation like this. But maybe we should be allowed to at least go over to someone in a situation like that and ask them if everything is okay. And if that person then comes up to you in a threatening way, then you should be allowed to warn them with your gun, and you should be allowed to even protect yourself with the gun if you feel like that person is completely out of control and coming after you, or he would be a danger to your life or something, in a situation like this. Then you should be allowed to shoot. But we should also definitely be allowed to protect someone else, someone we don't know, another victim, animal or human. So we should be allowed to protect any living being with a gun. So the whole thing is a tricky situation, of course. It's not easy. This is not a clear-cut situation, because sometimes crazy people will go insane with firearms, okay? And also, underage people or people with mental illness and stuff like that. So it's not a very simple to figure out situation. But with the human trafficking and the drug pushing and all of this that's going on, with guns that are always in the hands of the wrong people, with a situation like that, I think we need to have a reform on how guns should be used. Absolutely. Because the right people usually never have a gun on them to protect themselves or their loved ones. Almost never. And there were a couple of situations where burglar would break into someone's house. And one time there was a woman with her child, and she was getting terrified, and she had access to a gun, and she set the gun, and she knew how to handle the gun. And when the guy got into her house, she was so terrified, for a child particularly, that she shot him several times. And then he left bleeding, and he went to his car. And I don't know what happened there, whether he was brought to the hospital or not, but he was definitely incapacitated, so he was not going to do anything after that. He was too injured. And and she was not prosecuted for that. So the law was on her side, the truth was on her side. Justice, thank goodness, was on her side. Okay, and it should be. So that can happen, and that should happen, and the more this happens, the less there will be armed robberies or burglaries or forced entry rape situation and stuff like that. Okay, so if the people that were murdered by Richard Ramirez a long time ago, if they had guns on them, they could have shot that guy down. Okay, and they would have saved their lives and their dog's life. So that's just some food for thought here. I think we need to have a complete reform. That's all there is to it. That's how I view it. Switzerland is way advanced in many ways. So I was very impressed about that. That's why there are so many wealthy people living in Switzerland, because it's such a progressive and advanced country. And intelligent. There's many universities and very prestigious schools and banks and jewelers and Rolex, I think, is in Switzerland. And all kinds of jewelers, like I think Sales. Perfume makers, fashion designers, architects, things that move things forward, things that are beautiful. They don't even have a direct military. They have law enforcement units, but not in the sense of military or military action. So they stay out of all of that. But they're still a country for themselves, a very sovereign country. And they have the right to die. People from Europe drive over there to get euthanized, people that are very old or very sick. They view that as hope. They view that as a salvation. They can also go to Holland. There are some in Holland. So Holland and Switzerland, very advanced in those ways. And they use only drugs that cause the least amount of suffering and harm. Okay. the least amount of agony in this. So, and the most euphoria, actually. So, it's a real rescue.
Weather underground.
They're very, very advanced. Wonderful, I want to see the whole world use those as role models. Then we can make the world a better place. And they're also advanced in holistic healing, holistic healthcare, with the use of plants, whole plants, essences, and clays. There are many different clays that are highly medicinal, and other minerals, and hot baths, geothermal baths that are highly medicinal. So, when I grew up, I thought I needed to study psychology. That was not the right for me, actually. I realized that later on. I should have gone to the south of France, where they have a perfume making university. Should have studied on how to become a perfumer. Would have been so much better. Gosh, I would have met completely different people. And it's a completely different, like a different dimension. It's a completely different realm. That's what it is. Okay. So instead I end up in LA to do primal therapy. I mean, in the center in primal therapy, the people were from all over the world, and we were all on the same page. We all wanted healing, and they're all educated and self-critical and have self-humor, and they want to heal and they want to help others heal. And so we all had that in common. They're all animal-friendly, animal lovers. So decent people. As soon as I ventured outside of the center, that's when I met some really, really mean people. So, and then I realized, so LA is a pretty crazy place. With fundamentalists that come after me, and crazy Jehovah's Witness people that are coming after me and preaching. But the worst are really the fundamentalists. Those are the absolute worst. So none of them were as vicious. But that was before the Muslims came in. So the Muslims are then 100 times worse than the fundamentalists. And then there's so many people that are down and out in LA. So I've never seen this like this ever before. I'm from Germany, so where people are taken care of. No one is on the street for very, very long. Anyone who ends up on the street because they're suicidal or whatever, there will be someone walking by very, very quickly and saying, "Do you need any help? Can I get you a social worker? Do you want something? Can I buy you something?" That was then, not anymore now. Okay, so the wrong people have entered Germany now. Germany is no longer Germany. Germany is now Sharia law. It's a new country called Sharia law. That's what it is. And the Germans have accepted that, completely accepted that. They're all okay. Not all of them are okay with it, but a whopping number of people are okay with it. Because we have been drilled to be okay with it. No one told us that this would be dangerous to be okay with it. And that's a fact, okay. Yeah, it is what it is. So what else did I want to talk about? I'm already over an hour, I didn't even know. So religion needs to be banned. While we're already at it, banning some stuff, so throw religion onto that list as well. And then we can make the world a better place. Absolutely. I know a great judge. He already died many years ago from old age. I knew a great, great judge in Germany. Henschel was his name. And he looked just a little bit like Dick Cheney, but taller and very angular face, very serene and very serious man. And he was he was in the German Supreme Court. He was German Supreme Court judge, and he was himself an activist to get the Christian cross out of the schools. So, great man. And they had some success. They moved forward with stuff, but he was already very old. And so I don't know what his successors were doing with this movement that he created. I hope they were sticking to this and helping him move this forward. That's all I can say. And he was also against the Chador, of course. He was against any kind of hardened organized religious symbol that was representative of a hardened dictatorial type of religion that doesn't allow people this complete freedom of expression and stuff like this. So he was against that, and rightly so. So he was against all of these adverse, terrible things that people created. So we need to definitely outlaw the Christian cross, take Jesus off the cross, free Jesus Christ once and for all, okay, and free the women in Islam. Take that mummification cloth off their faces and bodies. Okay. And then we can make a better life. We can make a paradise out of this world. Okay? So, peace and love for all living beings.